So, Bill Strass, how long were you in the Sea organization?
I was in the Sea organization from the 3rd of 23 and a half years.
And was that mostly on, how many years on free ones?
16 years on the free ones.
16 years on the ship. For the Sea organization, you had a blood transfusion at the Free Winds home port, Curacao.
That's
Tell
right.
me what happened.
Okay, I had a bleeding ulcer, lost a lot of blood, and they took me to the hospital and they gave me blood transfusions.
You have always felt that the blood transfusion in Curacao gave you the AIDS virus. Is that right?
It has to be, because you can only get it through blood and through sex. The only 2 people I had sex with the whole time I was in the SO were my 2 wives, and they were both sent off for testing before I even found out I was positive, and they tested negative.
Okay,
I didn't get it from them.
so the blood transfusion. Now,
It's the only
for
way you can get
13 years, no treatment of that. Is that correct?
No treatment.
And you were sagging, going downward.
Right. I'd go to the doctor, and she said, "Oh, you've been working hard. You got to get more sleep," which is impossible when you're in the SO.
Is it fair to say that the Sea Organization executives knew you had AIDS and withheld that and kept it secret from you?
No, I don't think they had AIDS. They thought I had AIDS because the instant they found out, I was on the next plane out of there.
Oh, so
They didn't even tell me I had AIDS.
So for 13 years, you limped along, getting more and more tired,
Right.
and had no treatment for AIDS.
That's right.
And then they send you to Dr. Denk in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Okay. What did he say?
He said, I walked into his office, he was sitting behind his desk, and he looked up sadly and he said, "They didn't tell you, did they?"
Scott, for a while, you and Bill Strass were fellow shipmates and Sea Org members on the Free Winds.
Yes, absolutely.
And Bill, you would consider a friend of yours, correct?
Oh yeah. He was my best buddy in the Sea Org.
Oh.
He's still my best buddy. Well, I was there when Bill developed a bleeding ulcer in 1989. Bill's a hemophiliac. Hemophiliac is missing the coagulant factors in their blood that make the blood clot when you get a cut or a wound or something. So for a hemophiliac, a bleeding ulcer is literally a life and death situation. It's an emergency. So he was sent to the hospital in Curacao, and during that time he received some transfusions and also the missing coagulant factor that his body doesn't make. And in one or the other, the HIV virus was present. So Bill got HIV from that. However, he didn't know that at the time. And over the subsequent years, the disease progressed with the onset of symptoms of severe fatigue, dramatic weight loss. He developed shingles, which is an extremely painful condition.
It sent me to a hospital in Nassau for some tests. They didn't tell me what tests I was being tested for. And then they called up Dink and told him that I was tested positive for HIV. They didn't tell me. They didn't have the guts to tell me to my face. They told Dr. Dink to tell me.
At the time, it was considered a death sentence because they hadn't really developed the antiretroviral treatment. That was still experimental at the time, you know. And the treatment that they had at the time was, you know, it was deadly in itself. AZT, it would poison your liver.
After seeing Dr. Denk, I believe you were told to go see a chiropractor in Northern California called James Kepler. Kepler knew you had AIDS.
Absolutely.
From Dr. Denk.
Yes.
And what was his treatment? He's a long-term OT7, OT8 Scientologist. So what was his treatment of you since you had the AIDS virus?
He took x-rays of my back, he adjusted my back, he had some physical therapists working with me, and he gave me some herbs.
So for the AIDS virus, you got back adjustments and herbs.
Yeah, and he had some weird laser therapy or something going on.
What year was this, Bill?
This was in 2002.
I see. So basically they were keeping the AIDS adjudication in-house, meaning that they stayed with loyal OT7 Scientologists, Dr. Denk and Dr. Kepler.
Absolutely, and I know for a fact that Kepler, instead of getting paid in cash, was getting accommodations on his Freeman's account as payment for my service, for treating me.
Bill's wife was still being held hostage on the ship, and for 6 months.
But since my wife was being held against her will on the ship, I left Kepler after 2 or 3 months. I was living in his house. I came down here to see IJC, the International Justice Chief, to try to get my wife released from the Freemans, because she had told them that she wanted to come and be with me, and she was informed by the captain in his office that, well, I'm sorry, Allison, but Bill's gonna die. There's nothing we can do for him. There's nothing anybody can do for him. So you should just, be a good staff member and continue doing your post. And not only that, but she was being harassed by a number of staff. The captain was saying to the whole crew at staff meeting that, she's stirring up, and Allison's causing trouble, and, she couldn't even go on the dock without a security guard.
The primary reason why for that is Bill's wife happens to be a licensed Marine chief engineer. And she was considered to be an extremely valuable staff member to the ship
Asset.
for its licensure complement.